So you don't think fireworks are dangerous out there? It's up in NorCal. It's caught by KCRA3. This is a fireworks facility that goes boom. 7 people are still missing. Who knows? They may never find them. They could have been blown up. Terrific explosion. And they were doing it live on the air. Here we go.
Good situation.
Okay, yeah, you can absolutely see the on the left of your screen. This is catching right now. So we just want to remind you, you're watching the KCRA3 News at 7.
There we go.
You saw it coming. You saw it coming.
Yeah, you saw it coming, all right. Re-roll that.
Screen. This is catching right now. So we just want to remind you, you're watching the KCRA3 News at 7.
There we go.
You saw it coming.
That guy and girl were fairly calm on that. I mean, you're rolling there, a humongous fireworks explosion coming off. I mean, that was like an earthquake around there. People felt the concussion from miles away from that. So again, you don't think fireworks are dangerous. They can blow off your fingers. They can kill you depending on the power. And if you light it, even if they're not very powerful, if a whole bunch of them go off at once, looks like a mini nuclear explosion. Again, that's from NorCal. And the footage from KCRA3 in Sacramento. Berdoo Cops, and I got to give them some props. They've been having some really good videos. Handling Biz is their latest one. Here we go. We thought. So these cats are really on it here. See the extremely high-powered firearms, arresting criminals going on. So again, we got to give the Berdoo Cops a little props. Their videos that they've been coming up with have been very good. And of course, they're handling business. This is a very sad story. CHP officer from Moreno Valley, California, where we broadcast from in my native area, Miguel Cano lost his life late last night. He and his partner were transporting a detainee, arrestee. He looked at, and it was a female partner. According to reports on Fox 11, she kind of looked at him, or NCHP reports. He said, "Yeah, I'm not feeling well." All of a sudden, they wound up crashing into the tree. The detainee and the other officer weren't hurt or suffered minor injuries, but it appears from the reports, and we'll know from the autopsy in the final report, but it appears he had a medical emergency. It was indicated on some reports it might be fentanyl related, that he may have handled it, or maybe the person that they were arrested had it. He got to it. That fentanyl stuff is dangerous. We don't know if that's 100% the case here, but something happened. He lost control of the vehicle and crashed, and later was pronounced dead at a hospital. So rest easy. CHP officer Miguel Cano, 34, from Moreno Valley. 3 arrested in alleged vigilante assault up in Central Cal.
Being investigated after what police suspect was a vigilante operation turned violent. According to a search warrant, the 3 are accused of assaulting a man after posing online as a 14-year-old girl. I'm Veronica Morley, your senior reporter. Investigators are now warning against the consequences of these kinds of civilian operations and how they can do more harm than good.
So it appears 3 dudes up in Bakersfield posed as a 14-year-old girl, like a lot of cops do if they're trying to do a sting operation on sex trafficking and stuff. They went and posed as 14-year-old girl. Now we can make our conclusions of what was said. They show up at the house, lock the guy up, threaten him, and rob him. And it's kind of a, let's say, and I'm sure, well, not sure, but I guess my speculation is what the three that were arrested for allegedly the vigilantes pulling off this sort of deal is they figured, well, if you're admitting talking to, let's say, allegedly talking to a 14-year-old girl or soliciting sex or, sharing some inappropriate pictures or something, you're not going to be inclined to call the cops when they show up to rob you. So this is the latest deal going on. So we just wanted to do that as a PSA somewhat and to warn people, one, don't be doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. Second, if you're a dude and you see this 14-year-old girl coming on to you, first, you shouldn't even be playing in that realm. Second, you're probably going to wind up either in the wrong side of a robbery or worse, or looking at the wrong end of the Gray Bar Motel. Some people, I guess, will never learn. The king, Richard Petty. And I imagine people under 40 now, because it's been, 41 years since he won the Firecracker 400, which then President Reagan attended for his 200, which was then NASCAR Winston Cup victory. All-time leader of that. And I suppose if you're under 40, you probably don't even know who Richard Petty is. But if you're over 40, practically everyone knew, even if you weren't into racing, you knew the name Richard Petty, who he was. He was in 43, all that. King of NASCAR. He turned 88 today. Here's what happened when he opened his pickup truck today. He got a big surprise. Of balloons and confetti coming out of his truck. So that was pretty cool on that. 88th birthday. And when they had the June race out of Riverside, although it wasn't officially his birthday, he used to. Every time he came out here for his birthday celebration out here in SoCal, he always had a steak at Pinnacle Peaks over there in Colton. He loved that place. So that's those of you under 40, that's some of the history, not only of Riverside Raceway, that you missed. On top of that, plus, you miss guys like this. Mr. Cool Steve McQueen, out at the aforementioned Riverside Raceway in 1966, with his sports car that he used to race quite frequently out there and many other venues. Just get this, she'll never be as cool as Steve McQueen. And Moreno Valley and Riverside will never be as cool as the 60s when we had the racetrack and all sorts of other fun stuff to do out here. Look at all the wide open spaces around there. Holy cow, man, that brings back some memories. Very glad I lived through those times. 2 blocks from my native home. This whole crocodile tears over, oh, they're picking up these innocent people and ICE detainees and all that. First, Billy Asalee has said it, Trump has said it, and everything else, especially with these sanctuary cities and states and counties, California being almost all of them are, not cooperating with ICE, not cooperating with the county jails, the county sheriffs when they're releasing prisoners and ICE have a detainer, which means they got them on federal charges. California, no, you can't do it. Except in very rare cases, if they're really, if they're a 12-time serial killer, they might let you out. They might let ICE have them. But this is the whole crocodile tears and the whole enchilada coming on. But here we go.
What he called the worst of the worst. But new numbers from the ABC News data team shows ICE is arresting more migrants who have not been accused of crimes. Over the first 5 months of the Trump administration, ICE arrested more than 95,000 people. From inauguration day to May 4th.
So you see there, over 75%, 77% have either criminal convictions or pending charges. What the hell are they talking about? Only 23% have no criminal history. And as Asaley said, what the hell? If you're around and they're picking these guys up, you're going to get picked up too. So blame Gavin Newsom, Victor Manuel Perez, Extian Gutierrez, which making Riverside County de facto sanctuary county. Buffoon Bass and all these ones that have been protecting them and running these crocodile tears and that, and just flat out fake news. 77% either had criminal convictions or pending charges. Only 23, not the vast majority, only 23% had no criminal history, and it's the fault of California with their sanctuary cities, counties, and state policies that are causing the 23% with no criminal history. And here's, well, let's get to the next story before we have Cal here. It's Robert Garcia. He's a congressman. This is the first one of the BS report on ABC 7. Here we go.
Administration has changed those rules also. Local mayors are asking, why are their cities, or why is this part of LA County, Southeast LA County, being targeted?
ICE is terrorizing this community.
Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia denouncing the raids by immigration agents in Southeast Los Angeles County. Outside Bell Gardens City Hall with the mayors of Bell Gardens, Bell, and immigrants' rights activists, Representative Garcia says his oversight committee is launching an investigation as to why the Trump administration is not allowing members of Congress to visit detention sites without prior notice.
For the same reason, I can't just walk up there and look around at what's going on. It's very easy to explain. It's a detention center. It's a jail. Dangerous people are in there. They're looking out for your safety. That's why, Robert Garcia, they want prior knowledge, just not you showing up, beating on the door, saying, I want in. This stuff is beyond the pale. California Republicans in our state legislature are whining and crying about, oh, they're arresting violent, they're just asking to focus on violent criminals.
Expressing their concerns about the recent enforced immigration happenings in California. They're urging the president to focus on targeting violent criminals in his immigration crackdown. The Republicans say the focus on California farms and businesses is spreading fear and driving workers out of critical industries. They say arresting migrants with no criminal records has already created a serious labor shortage in California. And in fact, there is new evidence the recent immigration action is taking a toll on California farms.
Shut up. There are unlimited. Means you can get a temporary work visa every year for 6 months out of the year to come up and work in the farms. There's no excuse for not being legal. Second thing, if you want to stop this stuff, let's make a deal. Okay, those of you starting in January 20th, 2021 that have come into this country unlawfully or illegally, you are subject to deportation. Period. End of frickin' story. The 10, 20, 30 million, whatever, under the Biden administration, illegally and blowing through all the rules that says we only allow 1 million per year into this country and allowing that, willfully thumbing their nose at the law. Let's take care of those first. Now, maybe we'll take a deal and we'll talk about those that were here prior to that. We'll have a discussion about those. But let's start at that point. Everybody from 2021 that has come in here illegally or unlawfully is subject to deportation. I don't care if you're a criminal or not or whatever. We can start there, but if Rosalie Ochoa Bo, our state senator out here in the IE who signed this thing wants to come in here and debate this or talk about it or really wants to come to a solution on it instead of grandstanding out here and running falsehoods. They're the only reason there's a shortage of legal farm workers because they can bring as many as they want temporarily every frickin' year. Let's stop with the BS. God, these people. MAGA, one lady who has been arrested by ICE and her husband are still MAGA supporters. It took Fox 11 to report this one.
Family, all supporters of President Trump. See the MAGA hats. President Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf live for us in Diamond Bar. And Matthew, those Trump flags staying up tonight.
Yeah, those flags staying up. This family still supports Donald Trump despite their mom being detained. The final moments home for an Iranian woman detained by immigration agents. A mother Monday going inside to say bye to her 4 kids.
She came and kissed the kids and that was it. That's the last time I saw her.
A proud President Trump.
Did it look like they busted the door down and went and dragged her out by the hair? No. She's going in to say goodbye to her kids and her husband. And they're still MAGA supporters.
Trump supporting family in Diamond Bar.
Election time was here. I had a full 3-4 flags out.
Even while their mom faces immigration questions. Has your opinion changed on this?
That's a good question. Somewhat it has. Just because I'm going through it. I was very selfish before. But what I see right now is, okay, there's a reason for it.
Arthur Sahakian's wife.
There's somebody who's directly affected of it. And of course, if your wife gets hauled off on that, but he's still supporting Trump and MAGA and the flags are still out. It's people who are supporting the law. And let's get to this, Bo, Rosalia, and the rest of you chumps who are trying to run falsehoods or this or they're taking that. Let's talk about how we can make this work for everyone. But it's going to start with dangerous criminals and those that came out here illegally by the tens of millions from 2021 are going back. Don't care how or what your excuse is. You can have discussions about the rest of it. We're not unreasonable people, but we don't like to be played. And that's what we're getting. We're getting played. Thrifty Ice Cream was just sold to a group that the co-founders that put up Corona's Monster Energy drink. So looks like the Thrifty Ice Cream will survive out of the Rite Aid bankruptcy. I wonder if they're going to bring back the nickel single scoop of ice cream. Last time I was in there's $2 for a single scoop. Gotta love Ron DeSantis. They're unveiling the Jefferson statue.
There he is, right there.
There it is, right there. Gotta love it. Thumb in the nose. The Thomas Jefferson statue in honor of America's 250th anniversary. Yes, we're not putting up with this crapiola. When the news comes here, big police chase. I was out riding my bike around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you hear the ghetto bird was up rolling around. Well, finally, right next door to the studios where it wound up when I came out, I said, there's a bunch of cop cars in there. Guess we'll mosey on down. Well, it's always nice when the news gets right by the old studio. Roy Blecker with IE Newswire. We're at Cotton. Put all the nasty comments you want in there. That's about my camera. I think I got closer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever was going on.
There's 7 or 8 cops.
And that's where all the helicopters and all the sirens.
So wherever the police chase and whatever they were doing, the pursuit, Wound up right next door. Son of a gun. Well, Susan Shelley on at the bottom of the hour when we join the Mighty Met KMET and much, much more as we go. There's that funky slide guitar music. Comes in every Monday through Friday on tape. Live at 5 on the EVOP Network, Rumble X, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe on all that. We'll be joining the Mighty Met KMET 1490 AM here in a couple of minutes as we go. Of course, all my other equipment starts failing at the same time as we go. It's somewhat interesting, all the fun stuff we get to go through, but I was really intrigued by that, and I surprised Fox. It took Fox 11 to record it, but the MAGA family that the mom got detained are still MAGA supporters. Go figure. How could that be? It's really intriguing, some of the stuff we're getting into. And again, the frustration of the news media and their ultra crap. Really, it is. They're ultra crap of them trying to put out, oh, no farm workers in California are all going to do. Stick it where the sun don't shine. And it's really frustrating. 6 Republican legislatures in our legislature, Assembly, and Senate are trying to run the same thing. Sticking up for the illegals. Again, if we want to talk, first, there is no exception. Criminals and those that came in illegally or lawfully under the Biden administration by the tens of millions from 2021 are subject to deportation, are going to be deported. End of story. They came in here illegally or unlawfully, so they're gone. Except the few that did go through the process, but I mean 98.7% of them. There's no excuses on there. You want to have discussions about the rest, that's fine. Let's finally have them. If we want to change immigration policy, then let's change it. That has to be done in the House of Representatives and the Senate of the United States. Period. End of story. You can squawk about it everywhere else. You can protest. You can do
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
That's where it comes off. So hopefully we'll have Susan Shelley on when we come back. On the flip side, on KMET, as Jesse said, well, maybe we'll discuss some of this and Big Beautiful Bill and other things that have been going on. It's been it's been fairly quiet.
5 seconds. Here we go.
Lately, so
Up to date. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management.
There's that Sunday Slide guitar music. It comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30. The Mighty Met 1490 AM. Broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the former Chilean band, joining a vast video audience in the Evil Lippy Network, Rumble, X, all that good stuff. The frustration of the way it's being portrayed with the illegals and stuff is absolutely, we ran through it in the first half hour. Robert Garcia, congressman. Oh, they're rolling through the communities, and they're just dragging people out. And then you see the story on Fox 11. Here we go. MAGA mom gets arrested from a MAGA family in Diamond Bar. They still support Trump. They didn't drag her out by her hair. She said, "Can I go back in and tell my kids and husband goodbye, Ed?" Fine. The disingenuousness is something else. Side note, CHP officer from Moreno Valley, Miguel Cano, was killed in a on-duty accident in Culver City. It's one of the big tragedies, we should say. A lot of questions going on. Appears it might have been a medical emergency, but we'll see what goes on there. It's one of the, we'll see what the reports say, but that will be something that we'll really be looking into. Of course, another one in Moreno Valley. After the show, they had a big police chase roll in, and it wound up right next door at the Catholic Church here, St. Christopher's at Cottonwood in Paris, with about 10 cops or something all over. They didn't seem to be that wound up about it, so hopefully we'll find out I haven't seen where the report, I was looking for it, I didn't see no press release on it, but I'm sure they'll probably say something about it. But as we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts. More important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
I don't know if you caught it, but Congressman Robert Garcia, 6 California legislatures, including Rosalie Ochoa Bo out here in the IE, we're all whining and crying and, oh, they're busting illegals and they haven't committed any crimes and all this other stuff. My contention is this, and they're saying farm workers first. If they don't know the law, I will explain it to them. Farm workers have unlimited visas that can come in to do farm work. They can be here 6 months out of the year. They apply legally. You put your name down. Basically, they stamp it and say, here you go. So let's quit with that stuff. Second thing is the family in Diamond Bar, where the mom is detained on, immigration charges, they're still supporting Trump. And this whole thing's going to stop. My contention is, no, criminals out. Anyone that the tens of millions that came in illegally or lawfully under the Biden administration, criminals or not, they are going to be deported. We may talk about the rest of them if we want to open that up in Congress and do some reforms. I'm open to that. That's the minimum standard we should be at, Susan Shelley.
Well, it's so interesting because if you watch 2 different TV networks or read 2 different publications, you are seeing 2 different realities. And only one of them is real. But the Democrats have been trying to portray the entire immigration enforcement effort as random raids on innocent people who may not even be immigrants at all, who may be U.S. citizens, pulling people away from their families, snatching them up in the parking lot of Home Depot, randomly, without warrants, without lawfulness, unconstitutionally, based on the color of their skin. They are just ramping up this level of fear like nothing I've seen since COVID. It's quite amazing. And it's working for them politically. Gavin Newsom's poll numbers apparently are going up. And I'm sure that that's happening for Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, whose poll numbers were absolutely sub-zero. They were so low. and the way she's been on television every 15 minutes telling the same story about stop the raids, ICE go home, this is an indication, I think, that politically it's working for them. And then you see these Republicans sign a letter that says, please leave our people alone unless they're criminals. Well, that tells you that the propaganda has worked on their constituents and they're trying to get somewhere safe on the right side of the issue politically. But it's all a lie. What's happened here is we have this sanctuary state law that prohibits reasonable communication in retention of criminals who are being released from state or county prison facilities, jail facilities. And because they can't hand over people in that situation with communication that's normal, among law enforcement agencies. Because they can't do that, the federal authorities are going out into the community to get the people who are going to deport, who have final removal orders, who've been through all the due process, and are criminals, and they're going out into the community to get them. Anyone who's nearby is vulnerable too, and that's because of a sanctuary law. But it's hard to get that story out, isn't it?
1,000%. People, but here's my contention. People are leaving California by the droves and have been for decades. They're pouring into Florida. Look at the alligator Alcatraz. In days, they got a detention facility up. They're going to have judges there or deputizing the National Guard, have them in and out in days on deportation notices, whatever. They'll get their due process. And their due process, in 98.7% of the case, they're going to say, you're going back to El Salvador, Guatemala, or wherever you came from. And that's the way the process should be working. We got to clean up this mess. But California politicians, you mentioned too, Buffoon, Bass, and Gulag Gavin Newsom, and everyone else, Robert Garcia and all the ones that are cackling, even these 6 Republicans, including Beau, you guys are perpetuating this. You're putting our law enforcement officers in danger by running this rhetoric that's untrue. And this stuff, and like Trump said, it's going to stop, whether you like it or not. And if they were honest, and they're politicians, they should know this. If you want to change immigration law, you should be putting that debate between the House and the Senate of the United States, because they're the ones that make the shot, Susan Shelley.
Well, yes, they should go to Congress and they should change the immigration law. But how many times really each of the parties have failed to do it, even when they had full control of Congress and the White House? Obama had it, didn't do anything. Trump had it. They're not changing immigration law. But Trump has the law on his side because he's enforcing existing law. And no matter how many times the courts say, oh, we don't like the way you're enforcing existing law, he is still the president enforcing existing law. So ultimately, he will prevail on this. But you know what? I really have a question for everybody. Does it look to you like 100% certainty that illegal immigrants are voting in these elections? Because what else explains this extraordinary, passionate advocacy for illegal immigrants? If they're not voting and making the difference in the election of these people who hold office, why are they fighting this hard?
Oh, 1,000%. That came up at the press conference on Alligator Alcatraz the other day with Trump and DeSantis. And DeSantis was hot about it because he said, in the 2020 census, and I've seen this before, California would have probably lost 4 to 5 seats if you just counted U.S. citizens, which Trump is proposing to do. And he said even of that, they barely squeaked it through. Why, with a few thousand, that we only lost 1 congressional seat in California. We should have lost 2, and that probably would have went to Florida, so I could see why DeSantis was bringing this up. But yeah, our representation in the House of Representatives in California is going to go down if they only count for election redistricting purposes people that are United States citizens, because that's going to wipe out, who knows, how many, you would probably have a better idea, how many millions of voters or how many millions of people would be off that number of whatever it is, 40 million population or close to it. What would be your guess or number that you would know that would probably be off that? Would we be down to like 36 million, 35, 32? What say you, Susan?
You know, I'm really not sure, but certainly Biden was moving immigrants over the border with these different parole programs that he created and flying them into specific targeted states and probably specific targeted congressional districts in order to affect the 2030 census. And that actually is not even illegal voting. That's just counting, as you said. So the number of people who are self-deporting with the Customs and Border Patrol and the number of people who are being arrested and deported, that is absolutely going to have an effect on the congressional reapportionment numbers, because it's estimated that Biden may have let 1 million additional people in the country illegally during his 4 years in office. And if it's true, then there are 4 million illegal immigrants living in the United States right now, and if half of them and they leave from specific locations, they were moved absolutely has an effect. It's hard to estimate what it is because we don't have good records on how much of this is happening. We only have our eyes and ears to go by.
It's something else. Switching gears, and I haven't read the column, but I'm interested to hear what you got to say. The Outlaws of California, Susan Shelley.
Do you remember the scene in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where Strother Martin tells them that their times is over?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's what's happening to California in a lot of ways. They have had the run of the place forever, and now Republicans have significant power in Washington, and President Trump is enforcing the law. And he is holding back education funds because California is violating federal law in the schools. He's going to hold back transportation funds because California is violating the law everywhere else, the bullet train, and all of these other things involving sanctuary cities. And they're going to hold back a lot of federal funds. And California is frantically suing to stop it from happening. I don't think it's going to win. I think California officials, from the superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurmond, who says just disregard whatever the federal government sends you. That was his advice to school districts. To the governor, who's out there saying, well, he can't do tariffs. He can't do tariffs. Yes, he can do tariffs. And they are just frantically not recognizing that the Biden administration is gone and times have changed. And we have an outlaw mayor, and we have the various outlaw city council members, like Imelda Padilla, who said that she wanted the police chief of Los Angeles to warn the city council so that she could warn the folks that ICE was coming. That's kind of lawless, as the police chief told her. And then we had this other one, Cynthia Gonzalez from Cudahy, who called on gang members to defend their turf against the biggest gang of all, the United States government. Oh, really? So this is just like an outlaw hole-in-the-wall gang hideout here in California. And that's what this feels like. The super posse from Washington is going to chase us all over the cliff, and they're going to win, and we're going to end up in Bolivia.
I think the Title IX thing is really going to cost California a lot with the boys and girls sports and all that. Penn State or whatever it was
Yes.
they wrote an apology. That was the most lackluster, disingenuous apology. You could tell we just don't want Trump to cut off their funds, but if we could figure a way around it, we would. And California is going to be losing this big time. Rob Bonta, Gulag Gavin Newsom, and a lot of these, a lot of nutcases out here have stood steadfast with this. Or Riverside, Amanda Vickers, newly on the school board, was asking the staff about this. Well, are we going to get funds cut off with Title IX? And they're like, the staff's tap dancing around this. Where I'm really going this, and I hope you guys, both on your jobs at the SoCal News Group and HJTA, will really look hard at Sonia Shaw, the great Chino Valley lady who's head of the board over there that started all this parental notification and Title IX stuff. She's running for superintendent of schools in California. And that's going to be a race that we really need to look at, in my view, because we in California have put ourselves in a big pickle here with the withholding. If Trump starts withholding funds to California when they're bleeding money all over the place out here in this state, we're going to be in a humongous heap of trouble, Susan Shelley.
Well, yes, the budget's already in the red, and they're borrowing money from this fund to put it into that fund to try and make it look like they're not in the red, and they're pushing expenses across the fiscal year line to try and make it work and make it balance. And then when all else fails, what they do is they say, well, we project that revenue will be more, and therefore the budget is balanced, which is a cool trick if you can get away with it. And they can, because they make the laws. So unfortunately, California is going to be hit very hard by these cuts, and they're real. They're not fictional, and the revenue will not be there to make it up because they're driving businesses out of the state. And so the more they drive jobs and businesses out of the state, the less tax revenue comes in from those jobs and businesses.
Here's another thing that I've been kind of pulling out at the local level, the counties and state, even the state, city council, school districts. They'll say, well, we got to balance our budget. Well, technically, you're not lying, and technically that's true. The federal government does it. They can print money, borrow money for whatever they authorize. So they get the federal government to borrow, got us 36 trillion in debt and whatever, the number's going to come out with this and anything else. Then they send it to the states or the counties or this and that. So even though those entities, state, county, schools, cities, didn't borrow it themselves, they get the federal government to borrow it. But guess what? You and me and everybody else have to pay that back with interest on top of that. So I believe we need to put more of an emphasis on how the money's coming into all these agencies and where it's being borrowed. And while they're technically not saying, not telling a lie, well, we just can't go out and borrow money to paper over a deficit or our budgets and that, they can de facto do it through the federal government, Susan Shelley.
Well, yes. It's amazing. It's amazing that the federal government made trillions of dollars just magically appear for COVID, and trillions of dollars just magically appear for wars. And for the Americans, have not been able to get out the tax cuts extended. All of the graders in Washington are harumphing that this is spending and is better the deficit. Now you're thinking they're letting us keep our own money, and now you think it's a problem? The COVID stuff was fine. The trillions of dollars of waste. So government has tremendous power to make it up as they go along, and unfortunately, if voters approve tax increases because they believe that it's necessary because the government comes to them and says, well, we've just not got a single cent to pay for ambulances. Well, what about the $50 billion we already gave you? Well, there's just nothing left for ambulances. If people are going to fall for that, then there's not a lot that can be done. Taxes are going to go up and up until people have to leave the state, and that's the way it's been in California.
To prevent that, tell them why they should join HJTA Go.
Because when you join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and especially when you sign up for the free email alerts at hjta.org, when you do that, you will be informed about things that are happening before it's too late. You'll get real information about what's on your ballot and what it means, and you'll be able to help with the new initiative, which is going to make it harder to raise taxes by closing a loophole that the courts have opened up in Proposition 13. Prop 13 keeps your taxes low. The government hates that. They keep attacking it. We keep defending it. Join the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association at hjta.org. Join this fight.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks so much, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. It's mind-boggling, some of the stuff at times that we have to endure on this. We have bright spots, so it's not all lost. But that doesn't mean we can take the pressure off for a second. We're fighting the establishment at every corner. It's really, 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 really one of the untold stories. And that's what they want you to do, to give up. The latest is this immigration thing. And, you got Republicans and Democrats in California. Oh, well, we can't. No, we're following the law, as Trump said. We allow 1 million people per year. Legally, you follow the process in this country. That's what the law is. Not 10 million, not 5 million. The borders are supposed to be enforced. That's what we have. If you want to change that, then lobby the Congress, get them to change it. If you want to have a discussion about that, then let's do it in the proper channels. The law is what it is today. It is being enforced as it is written. It is being enforced by the laws and the Constitution of the United States, period. So let's not crawl crocodile tears about stuff and make up false statements about this, that, and no farm workers. And again, there are unlimited temporary farm worker visas. You can stay here 6 months out of the year, every year, to work in the fields. And basically, you just put your name down and they go stamp and you're done. And then at the end of 6 months, or the maximum, you go back to wherever. Not, oh, we're short of farm workers. No, you're short of slave, illegal farm workers. This is what Cesar Chavez fought against 50, 60, 70 years ago. You don't want to hear no more about union this and we're for that and United Farm Workers. And I hope guys like Supervisor X or David Laratellas or any of them will come in here. And quit crying the crocodile tears and the false frickin' statements. You're just making the problem worse. Again, come in and prove me wrong. Get to some of the local news that's out there before we sign off here in a second or two. Again, the sad story that we have out there. CHP officer from Moreno Valley, Miguel Cano, died in a crash while on duty in Culver City, where he suffered fatal injuries transporting a detainee on that. Hemet, Independence Day show on Saturday at the Hemet Auto Mall is coming up, so check that out. Harupa Valley gets big news. A new Mountain and Discovery Center is coming online, so good news with that. Longtime Inland Empire conservationist retires. Cannabis tax increase is high in concern for California dispensaries. Look at to California to foul up the freaking weed deal. I don't think we're probably the only ones that impossible to do that. Said you should have had a 5-year tax exemption to let him get established. And then Wolf Fire still threatening structures while the Juniper Fire down in Paris looks like it's getting under control. So good job, firefighters down there. Again, rest easy, Officer Cano. San Bernardino Sheriff's Department were involved in a pursuit, just like they were in Moreno Valley here at St. Christopher's Church, which we had live on IE Newswire right after the show last night. Trust in Trump. He got a trade deal with Vietnam where we, American products, have 0 tariffs. They also announced Israel is a 60-day ceasefire on the Hamas-Israeli war. Police activity in Hemet by State and Damagoni Parkway. Redlands pays out $1.2 million to settle another police department sexual misconduct lawsuit. Registered sex offender in San Bernardino County was arrested for allegedly raping a 16-year-old girl in San Bernardino County. Better not start. Chino cops are out there, the motor officers with the National Department of Transportation's Safety Week, enforcing that. Motorcycle crash there in the Pass area. There's the Rancho C, or no, CHP San Bernardino dude who was winning awards at the World Police and Fire Games out there. Officer Ellsworth gets a big kudos for that. Murrieta cops want to remind you, as we're in the summer season, watch your kids where around the water because we don't need any drownings. Rancho Cucamonga CHP gets several new officers in there. You see them, so they have more guys to keep the CHP deal running. Hemet Cops show you how they do the Bookham Dano deal, and they're showing how they're training the new cops on how to do that. 2 men arrested in a murder investigation, a stabbing down there in Riverside, as you see the 2 suspects. I think we're going to have some more info on that. There's the deal at St. Christopher Church. You heard that late yesterday where all the sirens and the cops and the ghetto bird and the pursuit that was going on. Well, it ended right here at Paris Boulevard and Cottonwood. So there you go. Harupa Valley Insider. Well, they turned 14. We saw that yesterday. So that'll do it for today. We just barely snuck everything in for today. Have a great day. For the rest of the Hump Day Wednesday. That'll do it for today. Mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours. Why? The best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.